Welcome back, fight fans. I'm DB, this is Fight Talk, and today we'll be covering the first of this week's three major cards, Bellator 215. UFC 34 went essentially exactly as I predicted, from results to the finishes and even the fights themselves. I'll apologise for jinxing Robert Whittaker when I referenced his lack of luck with health and injuries, and we at Fight Talk wish him the best in his recovery. Now back to Friday night's event. Opening the main card in a catchweight bout is Austin Vanderford versus Cody Jones. You can be forgiven for not being too familiar with either fighter. Austin has fought for Dana White's Contender Series, yet despite a submission victory and being married to UFC star Paige Van Zandt, the UFC didn't even pick him up for a last-minute fight that he offered to take. Normally a welterweight, Austin instead has found himself signed to Bellator. A wrestling standout with a solid ground game, Austin is considered a real prospect with a lot of potential. Cody Jones is another prospect, highly ranked within the state of Carolina. A 10-1 amateur record which lasted unusually long at 4 years, he's gone 5-2 in the pro ranks and is riding a 4-fight winning streak. I suspect Cody may be the reason for the catchweight, as he has also competed at middleweight at times. Now, I've sat and studied several fights and I'm going to go with Austin Vanderford in this one, probably by submission. He's a strong wrestler and Cody has looked susceptible to being controlled against the cage, and his takedown defense has also been suspect. Cody's use of the butterfly guard is a positive. It tends to frustrate wrestlers by lifting them off their base, slowing down positional advancement, and ground and pound. However, I haven't seen the urgency to use it to sweep or set up a submission. Against a good wrestler, a BJJ player needs to really pop with sudden movements the second the wrestler is off balance, yet Cody seems to be too patient. For this reason, I think Austin will bully past and control the fight in all areas. The second fight on the main card is a bantamweight fight between Kimball and Duma. This is a pretty even matchup. Both fighters have similar amateur records, both have young professional records, and they're closely ranked in the US bantamweight rankings. The key differences are that Kimball was riding a 2-fight winning streak and has won both of those under the Bellator banner, including a record-setting 6-second KO. Duma is coming off a loss and is making his Bellator debut. That said, Duma's defeat was 8 months ago, and a fighter can make huge strides in that amount of time. Having studied some footage of both guys, I'm going to be going for Kimball by KO or TKO. Kimball is explosive with a heavy right hand. Duma does look skilled but has a horrible habit of reaching with his jab and bringing his hand back to his chest a lot. In fact, I counted it dozens of times in every fight that I could find, and this is exactly what can be exploited with an overhand right, which just so happens to be Kimball's weapon of choice. If Duma has tightened up his defensive boxing in these 8 months, then this would be considerably closer. But going on what I've seen, he keeps his hands too low right up until he engages, rarely puts any snap in his jab at all, and brings it back way too low for me to feel confident, particularly against someone who explodes out of nowhere with the perfect counter to such a style. In the first big fight on the card, we'll see former 2-time Bellator bantamweight champion Eduardo Dantas versus Toby Too Quick Misak. I've got to say, I'm pumped for this bout. I find bantamweight fights to be among the most technical and exciting. I was one myself, and Dantas is someone I've long admired. Misak is legit and considerably better than his record may suggest to someone who hasn't watched him before. His hands are incredibly accurate and, much like his nickname Too Quick suggests, are very fast. Lots of tie sweeps and flying knees are to be expected, but surprisingly some high-level wrestling too. I honestly think this drop to bantamweight could do great things for his career, as long as it doesn't tax his body too much. Dantas himself has seen his record get a bit of a dent with back-to-back losses, losing the title to Caldwell before being KO'd by the now unfortunately retired Michael McDonald. I think we're going to get an exciting decision here in favour of Dantas. I expect we'll see this fight go all over the place, and if a finish is to happen, then it will probably be a Dantas submission, but I see Misak more than holding his own and solidifying himself as a contender in Bellator's bantamweight division with a good showing. For our co-main event, we have a welterweight showdown between the undefeated Logan Stoll and Pascoe. This fight is flying under the radar, as a lot of people see 4-time NCAA All-American and immediately get flashbacks to the type of fights that John Fitch would give us. However, Stoll has finished 7 of his 9 fights so far and is a very aggressive fighter with great ground and pound. Pascoe is a game opponent and one of the top ranked fighters in the UK scene. 5-1 for Bama, Pascoe is yet to pick up his first win for Bellator, although he has faced Ed Ruth and Lorenz Larkin, so it's not like he's had an easy fight. Unfortunately for Pascoe, he has another difficult obstacle to pass, and I'm not convinced he can. I predict Stoll will win this by decision and move on to face one of the top guys who has been eliminated from the welterweight Grand Prix. Now for our main event, a heavyweight fight between Mitrione and Sergey Kharitonov. Someone is getting slept in this one, I'm sure of it. Two heavy-handed fighters who have a habit of getting excited and reckless. Mitrione was eliminated in the semi-finals of the Heavyweight Championship Grand Prix by eventual winner and champion Ryan Bader. Personally, I was confused when the tournament was even announced, considering Mitrione was 3-0 under the banner with 3 knockout wins, including one over Fedor. I felt Mitrione should have been fighting Czech Congo for the vacant title, who himself was on a 5-fight winning streak at the time. However, Bellator wanted to find a way to rematch Fedor and Mitrione for the heavyweight championship, and it ended up with their light heavyweight champion Bader, who I also predicted when the brackets were announced, winning the entire thing. Kharitonov has had a shaky start in Bellator, being KO'd in just 16 seconds by huge underdog Javi Ayala. He has since rebounded with 5 victories, but only one against the top opponent in Roy Nelson. Personally, I feel Mitrione wins this one by knockout or TKO. Kharitonov has slowed down since his Prime Pride run and seems more of a reckless brawler these days. Mitrione, meanwhile, remains an incredibly agile fighter for his size and definitely has the power to finish this. And that's it for my predictions. Leave yours in the comments below and be sure to like and subscribe for more MMA videos. We have a lot planned for Fight Talk, so don't miss it.